The phone's harsh ring jolted me from a feverish sleep. It was exactly 2:38 in the morning. My thermometer had read 102 degrees earlier that evening. A severe bout of illness had ravaged my body for days, leaving me barely able to breathe without coughing. The room spun as I fumbled for my phone. "Hello," I whispered. My voice cracked and my throat felt like coarse sandpaper. "Harvey." My boss Evelyn Pierce's voice sliced through the line with surgical precision. There was no concern for my health, nor was there any preamble. "You're fired. Your projects and office space are reassigned. Goodbye." The words should have devastated me. I had given 3 years of absolute dedication, countless all-nighters, and innovative campaigns that transformed the firm. I had discarded my personal life for this company. All of it was thrown away in a middle-of-the-night call while I was battling an illness that had left me weak and gasping for air. But instead of sadness, a strange sense of calm washed over me. "Okay," I replied simply. A brief pause followed on the line. "What do you mean, okay?" Confusion had completely replaced her confident tone. I could not help it. I laughed, a genuine hearty laugh that triggered a violent coughing fit. "What is so funny?" she demanded. Through my labored breathing, I managed to respond. "Nothing, Evelyn. You just do not realize what you have done. Are you threatening me?" Her voice pitched higher. "Not at all. I am just observing. Goodbye, Evelyn." I hung up the phone, still smiling despite the high fever. The projects she had just claimed, the ones she thought would advance her career, were actually elaborate traps she had unwittingly set for herself. She had just stepped right into them. If you have ever been blindsided by betrayal, you know that hollow feeling in your chest. That moment when someone you trusted reveals their true colors. Stay with me as this story unfolds. I promise the ending will be worth every minute of your time. My name is Harvey Vance. Before that late night call, I was the associate creative director at one of the top marketing firms in the nation. I had built a reputation for developing unconventional campaigns that connected with audiences on a deep level. My work had won major awards and brought in millions of dollars for our corporate clients. What I lacked in corporate politics, I made up for with raw creative talent. Let me take you back to how it all began. 3 years earlier, I had arrived at the firm fresh from a smaller boutique agency, buzzing with ideas and the drive to make them reality. Evelyn Pierce had personally recruited me. She was gushing about my portfolio and promising I would have creative freedom to push boundaries. "Your campaigns speak to people in ways others cannot achieve," she told me during our very first meeting. "That is exactly what we need here." For the first 6 months, she was my biggest cheerleader. She would showcase my concepts to major clients, nodding enthusiastically as I explained my creative vision. The leadership team seemed highly impressed, and I felt I had finally found my professional home. Then came the prestigious Ashton account, a struggling luxury watch brand needing complete reinvention. I developed a campaign focusing on time as a silent witness to life's most intimate moments rather than a mere status symbol. It was risky, emotional, and nothing like their previous campaigns. The campaign launched. Sales increased by 42% in the first quarter alone. The industry took notice, and prestigious award nominations rolled in. That was when I first noticed the shift. During our celebration dinner, our chief executive officer raised a glass to Evelyn's brilliant vision for Ashton. She stood basking in the applause, smiling warmly. When I conceived this approach, I knew it would resonate with a younger demographic, she claimed. I sat stunned, my congratulatory smile freezing on my face. Not once did she mention my name or my contribution. Later that night, I confronted her outside the restaurant. "I worked around the clock on that campaign, Evelyn. You did not even acknowledge me." She adjusted her expensive coat, not meeting my eyes. "Do not be so sensitive, Harvey. This is how business works. We are a team. The important thing is the company succeeds. A team where you take all the credit," I countered. Her expression hardened. "You are still relatively new here. I have spent 15 years building my reputation. When you reach my level, you will understand how this game is played." I should have walked away then. But the work challenged me, the compensation was excellent, and the health insurance covered my mother Margaret Vance's experimental cancer treatments. Without it, she would have had no options left. So I stayed, telling myself things would improve. They did not. The pattern became painfully clear. I would develop strategies and concepts. Then, Evelyn would mysteriously need a quick review just before the client presentations. She would walk into meetings with my work, making tiny modifications and presenting it as her collaborative vision. Client success was always attributed to Evelyn's strategic genius, while campaign failures were blamed on Harvey's execution missing the mark. My salary remained frozen while hers grew with each success. My success. Promotions that should have been mine went to others who played her political games. Meanwhile, my ideas continued generating millions of dollars. I documented everything. Every email, every meeting, every concept was saved. I did not do it for revenge initially, just for self-protection, or so I told myself. Then came the breaking point. 12 months ago, our largest client threatened to leave unless we delivered revolutionary work. Evelyn called me into her office. "We need something no one has done before," she said, tension visible around her eyes. "The chief executive officer specifically asked for you to lead this." I felt a brief flicker of vindication. Finally, some recognition, but she continued, "I will need to closely supervise your progress. The stakes are too high for experiments." That was her code for me doing the work while she took the credit. I developed a campaign that broke every convention in the marketing industry. It was personal, almost uncomfortably intimate, yet universal. The client absolutely loved it. Sales skyrocketed beyond our wildest projections. At the industry awards, Evelyn stood on stage accepting the top honor. "I have always believed in taking risks," she said, clutching the heavy trophy. "This campaign represents everything I have worked toward in my career." My name appeared in small print on a slide that flashed for 3 seconds. That night, something shifted inside me. I was not going to leave. That would be too easy for Evelyn. I was not going to complain. That would paint me as difficult. Instead, I decided to play a longer and much smarter game. I began speaking up more in meetings, ensuring others heard my ideas firsthand. I built relationships with clients directly, bypassing Evelyn whenever possible. I found ways to sign my work that could not be erased. Hidden creative elements that carried my signature style were woven into the campaigns, styles that clients began to recognize. Evelyn noticed. Her methods became more aggressive. 6 months ago, she assigned me 3 enormous client projects simultaneously, each with impossible deadlines. The message was clear. Fail and prove you are not essential, or succeed and work yourself to exhaustion while she collected the praise. I accepted the challenge without complaint. What she did not know was that I had been preparing for this moment. I poured everything into these 3 projects, creating strategies that broke new ground. The clients were thrilled with the preliminary presentations. The plans were innovative, forward-thinking, and if implemented exactly as written, subtly problematic. That was when I recognized her true game. These were not just tough assignments. They were calculated snares. The strategies, if executed as she demanded, would skirt industry regulations in ways that would not be obvious immediately, but would create serious legal consequences months later. By then, she would have ensured all evidence pointed to me as the responsible party. I quietly built alternative, completely legal versions of each campaign. I launched these clean versions while creating a paper trail showing Evelyn's explicit push for the problematic approaches. I saved emails where she insisted on pushing boundaries and being aggressive. I noted each time she removed protective measures or compliance steps I had included. "We do not need all these disclaimers," she would say, deleting sections of my work. "They dilute the message." I would save both versions, keeping the original safe. When I fell ill with the virus, I worried my careful planning would unravel. I was bedridden, struggling to breathe, let alone work. But as days passed and my fever raged, I realized Evelyn might see my illness as an opportunity. With me absent, she could claim complete ownership of the successful campaigns, while positioning me to take the fall when regulators eventually noticed the issues. I was right. 2 weeks into my illness, colleagues started acting strange during our video calls. Messages went unanswered. Projects were rerouted without explanation. Then came that middle-of-the-night call. As I lay in bed after hanging up, I felt an odd sense of peace despite my illness. I had prepared for this moment meticulously. Evelyn thought she was cutting me loose before I became a liability. In reality, she was walking into a trap of her own making. The next morning, between coughing fits, I sent 3 emails. The first went to our internal compliance team expressing concerns about certain directives I had received regarding the 3 major campaigns. The second went to the board of directors, detailing my contributions and attaching documentation of Evelyn's instructions to circumvent regulations. But the most important piece of evidence was in the second email. During my review of the filed compliance documents, I discovered that Evelyn had forged my signature on the regulatory sign-off sheets to push through the problematic versions she wanted. She did this to make it look like I had approved the compliance shortcuts. I attached clear, forensic proof of the forgery, citing California Penal Code Section 470. Since my signature was forged, those regulatory approvals were void ab initio, null and void from the very beginning. This meant the company was facing massive regulatory exposure, and Evelyn was personally liable for fraud. The third email went to my personal lawyer, outlining potential wrongful termination and documenting the systematic credit theft I had experienced over the 3 years. Then I waited, focusing on recovering my health. The symptoms gradually subsided, leaving me weak but clear-headed. For days, there was absolute silence from the company. I wondered if my evidence had been dismissed, if Evelyn's influence was too strong. A week after my firing, my phone rang. It was Walter Higgins, the head of the board. "Harvey, we need to talk." His voice was grave. My heart raced. Had my plan backfired? "We have reviewed your documentation," he continued, "and we have spoken with the clients directly. There are massive discrepancies between what we have been told by Evelyn and what actually happened." I said nothing, letting the silence do the work. "The board has called an emergency meeting tomorrow. We would like you to attend." I took a deep breath. "I am still recovering from my illness, Walter. The illness Evelyn knew about when she fired me at nearly 3 in the morning." A heavy sigh came from his end. "Yes, that is part of what we need to discuss. Can you join virtually?" "I will be there." That night I barely slept, not from anxiety but from anticipation. Years of being overlooked, of having my work stolen, of being positioned as expendable, it was all coming to a head. The next morning, I logged into the video call 10 minutes early. One by one, serious faces populated my screen. Evelyn Pierce joined last, her expression confident and smug until she saw me. "What is this?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Why is he here?" Walter Higgins cleared his throat. "Evelyn, please, we have serious matters to discuss." For the next hour, I watched as my careful documentation was presented. There were emails where Evelyn explicitly pushed for questionable tactics, recordings of meetings where she dismissed compliance concerns, and side-by-side comparisons of what she had presented to the board versus what had actually been implemented. But the most damning evidence was the forgery. Walter displayed the compliance documents side by side with my actual signature. "Our forensic expert has confirmed this is a forgery," Walter said, his voice cold. "Under California Penal Code Section 470, forgery is a criminal offense. Furthermore, because these documents were forged, the regulatory approvals are void ab initio. This has exposed our firm to millions of dollars in potential fines and violates your breach of fiduciary duty to this corporation." Most damning were the testimonials from clients, confirming I had been the sole creative force behind the campaigns, not Evelyn. Her face went from confident to confused, to panicked as the evidence mounted. "This is ridiculous," she finally sputtered, her face turning pale. "He is manipulating you. I have given 15 years to this company." Walter's expression remained stone cold. "And in those 15 years, how many of others' work have you claimed as your own, Evelyn?" The question hung heavily in the air. Evelyn's eyes darted around the screen, seeking allies and finding none. "We will need your resignation by the end of the day," Walter continued. "The legal team will be in touch regarding the client complaints." "You cannot do this," she whispered. But the fight had completely left her voice. After she disconnected, Walter turned to me. "Harvey, on behalf of the board, I want to apologize. We failed in our we should have seen what was happening." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral despite the victory surging through me. "We would like to offer you Evelyn's position effective immediately. Your work has been exceptional, and your integrity in implementing compliant campaigns despite pressure speaks volumes." The offer was everything I had worked toward. recognition, power, and complete vindication. But as I opened my mouth to accept, I hesitated. This was the moment I should feel triumph, yet something felt incomplete. The company that had allowed this to happen for years was suddenly sorry, only after they feared legal repercussions. "I appreciate the offer, Walter," I said carefully, "but I need time to consider it. My priorities have shifted during my illness." His surprise was visible. "Of course, take the time you require. The offer stands." After the call ended, I sat in silence, processing. The revenge I had orchestrated had worked perfectly. Evelyn was exposed and removed. I was offered her position, yet I felt hollow. Was becoming the next Evelyn really what I wanted? Or was there something more important than climbing a corporate ladder built on taking credit for others' work? My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, Margaret. "How did it go, honey?" I looked at her message, thinking about how close I had come to losing her, how the company's health insurance had saved her life, how precious time truly was. That is when I realized the best revenge would not be taking Evelyn's job. It would be creating something entirely new, something that would make both Evelyn and the company irrelevant. I picked up my phone and called Walter Higgins back. I had made my decision, but I had something much bigger in mind. "Walter," I said when he answered, "I am declining your offer." His sharp intake of breath was audible, but I have a different proposition. "Harvey, I understand you are upset, but this position comes with substantial compensation and benefits." "I do not want Evelyn's job," I interrupted. "I want to change how this entire industry works." Over the next hour, I outlined my vision. A new agency model built on transparent attribution, fair compensation tied directly to revenue generation, and collaborative leadership. No more stolen ideas, no more hidden contributions. "Our industry talks about innovation while clinging to a hierarchy designed in the 1950s, I explained. "Clients are tired of paying premium rates for work done by underpaid juniors while executives take credit." Walter remained silent as I detailed my proposal. I would stay only if the board agreed to pilot my new division, one operating under completely different rules. Each team member would receive clear credit for their contributions, and compensation would be directly tied to the success of their work. "You are essentially asking us to cannibalize our own business model," Walter finally said. "I am asking you to evolve before someone else makes us obsolete," I countered. The silence stretched until Walter spoke. "Present it to the full board next week. I cannot promise anything." "That is all I ask," I replied. For the next 7 days, I poured my recovering energy into my presentation. This was not just about revenge anymore. It was about creating something meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. The board meeting arrived. 12 stern faces watched as I outlined my vision, complete with financial projections, showing how transparency could actually increase profitability by improving talent retention and client trust. "Mr. Vance," said Beatrice Thorne, the oldest board member, "while intriguing, your proposal undermines decades of established practice." "With respect," I countered. "Those established practices are why we lose our best talent every 18 months. It is why clients grow suspicious of our billing. It is why Evelyn could steal credit for years without anyone noticing." That last point landed hard. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. "Give me 6 months to prove this model works," I pressed. "A small team, 3 clients. Complete autonomy. If I fail, you have lost little. If I succeed, you will be positioned as industry pioneers." The debate lasted hours. Finally, Walter called for a vote. 7-5 in favor of my proposal. A narrow victory, but enough. "Congratulations, Harvey," Walter said afterward. "You have your division. Do not make us regret this." I smiled. "I won't." This was my true revenge beginning to take shape. Not destroying Evelyn, but making her irrelevant, creating something she could never have built because she was too busy stealing instead of innovating. Within weeks, I assembled a team of 5 people, all talented individuals who had left the industry, disillusioned after experiences similar to mine. Together, we developed our operating principles and target client list. Our first prospective client was Clara Jenkins, marketing director at a mid-sized tech company. She had worked with traditional agencies for years and was notoriously demanding. "Your model sounds idealistic," she said during our pitch, skepticism evident. "But this industry runs on relationships and executive oversight. How can junior people possibly deliver without strict management?" That assumption is exactly why agencies waste your money, I explained. The junior people already do the work. We are just removing the unnecessary layers that take credit and drive up costs. She leaned forward. Prove it. I will give you our smallest product line. Show me results in 3 months. We accepted the challenge. Every team member took ownership of specific elements, their names clearly attached to their contributions. We established transparent pricing that showed exactly what each component cost and who was doing the work. Our first campaign launched 6 weeks later. The results were immediate. Engagement metrics were 40% above Clara's targets. 2 weeks after that, she called. I need to meet today. My stomach tightened. Had something gone wrong? Had our experiment failed already? That afternoon, I sat across from Clara, trying to read her expression. I showed your model and results to my chief executive officer. She began slowly. He had questions. I am happy to address any concerns. I offered preparing for criticism. His main question was, can you handle our entire brand portfolio? I blinked, processing her words. Our entire portfolio, she nodded. Your team delivered better results with half the budget of our main agency. More importantly, I always know exactly who is working on what and why decisions are made. No more mysterious charges or executives taking credit for junior work. This was it, our first major validation, and not just a client, but a significant one whose business would establish our division as viable. We would need to grow our team, I said, my mind racing. But yes, we can handle it. Clara smiled. Good, because I have already recommended you to 2 other companies. They will be calling this week. News travels fast in our industry. Within 2 months, we had 7 clients. By month 4, we had grown to 15 team members. Our transparent model was resonating with clients tired of traditional agency games. The original board members who had voted against me watched in stunned silence as our division's revenue grew. Walter, to his credit, became our strongest advocate. This is the future, he declared during a company-wide meeting as I presented our division's results. Harvey has shown us a better way forward. Seeing my name and contribution acknowledged publicly felt like water after years in the desert. But the true satisfaction came from watching my team receive the same recognition. Then came the industry conference, the same one where Evelyn had accepted an award for my work. A year earlier, our division was nominated for innovation in business practices. As I prepared my acceptance speech, ever optimistic, my assistant rushed in. Harvey, you need to see this. She handed me her phone. On screen was an announcement. Evelyn Pierce had launched her own agency, claiming to pioneer a revolutionary transparent model of credit and compensation. My blood boiled. Even now, she was stealing my ideas. I scrolled further, reading the details of her announcement. Her version was a pale imitation, surface-level transparency, transparency, with the same old power structures beneath. She did not understand the fundamental principles that made our model work because she had never created anything herself. Should we respond? My assistant asked. I considered it for a moment, then handed back her phone. No, the market will sort this out. That evening at the awards ceremony, I felt a familiar tension as they announced the innovation category. The spotlight landed on our table as they called our name. Standing at the podium, looking out at the industry that had nearly broken me, I felt a strange calm. This award belongs to every person whose ideas were stolen, I began. Every creative who watched someone else take credit for their work. Every junior who was told to wait their turn while their contributions powered someone else's promotion. The room grew uncomfortably quiet. Our model works not because it is noble, but because it is honest. Talent flows to places where it is valued. Clients stay where they trust the process. It is simply better business. I spotted Evelyn in the crowd, her expression unreadable. To those attempting to copy our approach, transparency is not a marketing tactic. It is a complete reinvention of how we work, reward, and create. You cannot fake it. Our eyes met briefly across the room. She looked away first. After the ceremony, an industry reporter cornered me. Rumor has it Evelyn Pierce started her company using your ideas again. Care to comment? I smiled. I am focused on building something new, not reliving the past. So, you won't address her claims that she developed this model years ago, but was not allowed to implement it at your former company. I nearly laughed. The beautiful thing about our model is that every idea has clear documentation of its origin. The truth is easily verified. The reporter raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Meaning I wish her well, but authenticity matters. Clients can tell the difference. 6 months later, that prediction proved accurate. Evelyn's agency struggled to retain both clients and talent. Without the ability to take credit for others' work, her own capabilities were exposed as mediocre. 3 major clients left her within weeks of each other, citing execution issues. Meanwhile, our division had grown so successful that the board voted to transition the entire company to our model. The old guard resisted, of course. 2 executives resigned, rather than operate with transparency. We wished them well and continued growing. 1 year after that midnight firing, I received an email that stopped me cold. "We should talk," it read. Evelyn wanted a meeting. Against my team's advice, I agreed to coffee at a neutral location. She looked different. The polished exterior was somewhat faded, her confidence dimmed. We ordered our drinks in awkward silence. "Your model is winning," she finally said, staring into her cup. "My agency is losing clients every month." I waited, letting her fill the silence. "I thought I could replicate what you built, but it is not working." She looked up. "I need your help." The audacity was breathtaking. After years of stealing my work, after firing me while I was seriously ill, she wanted my help. "Why would I do that?" I asked simply. "Because you are better than me," she admitted, the words clearly painful. "Not just creatively. You built something I cannot figure out how to copy." I studied her face, searching for manipulation. I found only desperation. "You never understood what makes the model work," I said. "It is not about the structure or the compensation formulas. It is about actually valuing people's contributions instead of seeing them as stepping stones for your advancement." She winced. "I can learn." "Can you?" After 15 years of taking credit for others' work, she had no answer for that. "Here is what I can offer," I said finally. "Not a partnership or collaboration, but advice. Start over. Close your agency. Take time to create something, anything that is truly yours. Experience what it is like to build rather than take. Then maybe you will understand why our model works. That is your help? Telling me to quit? That is my honesty. Something you never gave me." She left shortly after, angry and humiliated. I felt no satisfaction watching her go, just a quiet certainty that I had broken free from her influence entirely. 3 years have passed since that night Evelyn fired me. Our model has been adopted by a dozen other agencies. The industry publications that once celebrated her now feature case studies about our approach. I have been asked to speak at business schools about ethical leadership and innovation. Last month, I received a package. Inside was a small independent magazine featuring a modest ad campaign for a local business. The creative director was listed as Evelyn Pierce. The work was not groundbreaking, but it was solid, authentic, and undeniably hers. Attached was a note. "You were right," it read. "I am starting over, building, not taking. Thank you." I keep that note in my desk drawer, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of the journey from fevered and fired to founding a movement that changed an industry. The most powerful revenge is not destruction, it is creation. It is building something so necessary that it makes the old ways obsolete. It is transforming your pain into progress that helps others avoid the same fate. Evelyn took my job, my credit, and nearly my health. In return, I created a new way of working that made her entire approach irrelevant. I did not need to destroy Evelyn. I simply needed to build something better. She fired me at my lowest moment, thinking she was cutting me loose before I became a liability. Instead, she freed me to create something she could never have imagined. A system where people like her can no longer thrive by taking credit for others' brilliance. That is the sweetest revenge of all, using their betrayal as fuel to build something that ensures no one can ever do to others what they did to you. If you have ever had your work stolen or your contributions ignored, remember this. Your ideas have power. Even when others try to claim them, document everything. Build allies who see your value. And when the moment comes, whether through betrayal or opportunity, be ready to create something entirely new. Sometimes getting fired is just the universe telling you it is time to light your own path forward. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories of resilience and transformation. And leave a comment below if you have ever had to rebuild after betrayal. I read every response and draw strength from this community's experiences. Remember, the best revenge is not getting even, It is getting better. Thanks for staying with me until the end.